Hello my friends, welcome back. Today I am going to do a 12 by 12 layout using the Pocketful of Sunshine collection from Rosie Studios, and I really want to focus on my scraps. You can see I've got a whole little envelope here, leftover bits and pieces from different projects that I've been making with this collection, and I really want to kind of use up as much of those as I can. I also have some photos of my very first daffodils this season. Very excited to see those little yellow heads pop out of the garden. Definitely a sign that spring is here, along with seasonal allergies, but I am willing to put up with those for the slightly sunnier days and warmer temperatures. You can see here, I'm just going through and these are mostly 6 by 6 papers. So I'm going to have to be a little bit careful with how I put these scraps down. Like I've got an idea. I want to do a whole pile of horizontal kind of strips, I guess, or stripes with these leftover scraps, but I kind of want them to be I want the portion of the layout that's going to have these strips on it to be about, I guess, roughly 8-9 inches rather than 6. So this is where the trickery comes into it. I did have a couple of pieces that were longer. So you can see here, these are my longer my strips. I'll call them strips. I've got 2 different patterns in here in the kind of longer length. And so I'm starting at the top and the bottom, and I'm laying these out, making sure that they're straight. I'm not going to worry too much about the ones in between, or the kind of edges of this block of strips down the side. They are going to be ragged, but I wanted at least the top and the bottom to be straight. So I'm going to end up with a white border here, and I did toss up between that beautiful yellow cardstock and the white, but because I've got so much pattern going on here, I decided to stick with the white. And what you're going to see me do is lay down a few pieces at a time, and then I'm adding like a little bit of adhesive to them, just enough to keep them stuck down. But then I'm taking them over to my sewing machine and stitching down each strip individually. So this is why I'm doing it in a few little kind of sections. Before the papers overlap each other, generally I'm taking them over to the sewing machine and stitching them down. So I think I did it in like 3 or 4 different batches. It did take a little bit of time, but I really loved that kind of like the stitched look. I guess makes it look very quilty, like it really plays up those different fabric strips and makes them paper strips, makes them look like fabric strips, and just gives it a little bit more texture. So it was kind of a tedious process, but I loved the end result. Now I'm just being like semi-conscious of where I'm putting the strips in terms of color and balance across this whole block of strips. And I am trying not to put similar patterns and similar colors like next to each other or on top of each other. I am aware that there's a section, or a good large section actually of this layout that is going to end up covered by like photo and embellishment and title, but I'm still trying to cover up all of these little spaces. So I'm trying to make sure there's a good balance of colors. So I had to add that extra purple in the top there because I only had 2 and I really wanted 3, and I am trying to fill up any kind of little gaps either. So this is where my photos are going to go. They're pretty much directly in the middle of this block, and so I was just making sure that when the photos are down, the colors that are around that work and there's nothing too similar side by side. Jump scare there, I've already gone ahead, made sure everything's stitched down, trimmed all those edges off, and I started looking through the die cut pack, and I actually found my title. There's some little die cuts in there that say today, and they're a beautiful floral, right? So a beautiful floral is not going to stand out on this block of strips. There's a lot of pattern and a lot of color going on, but it just so happens that all of the letters in today are reversible. So either flipping them horizontally or vertically, I can get a white look, which does stand out against my strips down the bottom there. There's a yellow and a blue floral and behind there, and they work really nicely. So that's effectively where my title is going to go, and I'm just building 3 little clusters of embellishments, one on the left-hand side, one on the top right, and one just sort of directly above my title in the middle of the 2 photos. And I am trying to stick to the colors that I've used, so predominantly yellow, blue, and green. In the strips, I have added 3 little touches of purple, but I haven't used any of the pink papers. I did cut some pink strips, but in the end, I didn't end up using them. So I have kept to those colors with the embellishments as well. So it's going to help to blend that background and my photos, which are, of course, those colors as well. It's going to help kind of blend all of them together. Now, I'm quite happy with how those look. I'm adding a few little non-florally pieces as well, mostly like little tiny word strips. The advantage with how I have adhered those strips down is that, don't get me wrong, they're nice and secure with the stitching. They're not going anywhere. But the tops and the bottom of them are free. They're not adhered down, which means I can tuck some other little pieces into them. Mostly I'm using little like word strips, little banners for that, and then I'm going to go ahead and adhere all of that down. Now I've saved you having to watch most of that because, to be honest, it was pretty tedious. I have adhered most of those clusters down just directly onto the background with some liquid adhesive, so there's not a whole lot of dimension in this layout. I have, however, popped up the photos on some foam tape, and I had made sure that a few, I think there's one or two embellishments on each photo, in each cluster, is actually sitting on top of the photo, and so I've made sure to adhere them on top of the photo, and I'm not necessarily putting foam in behind there because the foam behind the photo is going to hold those embellishments up, but it just gives a teeny tiny little bit of dimension. So I am going to do the same thing with this little house. I'm just going to make sure I get my title down first, and I'm aligning that kind of not just a little bit towards the right, like it's not centered. I want something a little bit off centered here just to balance that out, and I'm adhering that down with just liquid adhesive as well. Now, once I've got that paper title down, I am going to add a puffy sticker to complete the title. But this little cluster or piece here, the wee house, it's going to need a little bit of foam adhesive. So the reason I wanted to get the title down first was so that I could adhere that foam piece and just overlap the title just a tiny smidge. I added some florals onto the house itself, and the florals are the piece that kind of sit over top of that paper title. Now I decided that I wanted to add a couple more little stickery words, tiny little word stickers, so I'm going to add them in too. Luckily they have their own adhesive, so I don't have to add anything else. And here is that little puffy word that I'm adding into here. It is a whole lot brighter than the rest of it, but I just feel like that helps the title stand out even more. So the title is Love Today. And since I had those puffy stickers out, I'm going to add just a couple more butterflies in. It gives me a visual triangle with the one at the top. And then I can call this layout done. You can see here, though, I did come back to it and add just a few little splatters with some metallic watercolor paint in a yellow and a blue to match the rest of the layout. And that just made me a lot happier with it. The white was a lot less stark after that. Hey, thanks for watching, my friends. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple of videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye.